Hello, I'm George Mayhem, the Managing Editor of Vanilla Plus, and welcome to today's webinar, the topic of which is Lean Management in Field Service Processes. There's a lot of talk about how communication service providers can reduce the cost of their operations by running their businesses more efficiently. This is particularly important today as market saturation closes off traditional growth opportunities in many markets, and the cost of providing a megabit of data outpaces the revenue that can be generated by doing so. Field services have substantial contributions to make to CSPs in their efforts to redefine their equations for profitable operations, and there are multiple layers to the potential impact field services can have on the business performance of communication service providers. First, there are the costs associated with inefficient field services. These encompass unnecessary truck roll, wasted personnel time, and failure to resolve issues on the first visit, and that's only naming a few examples. All of these have a clear monetary impact and are contributing to CSP's operational costs. However, there are wider impacts than simply saving cost. An area of increasing importance within field services, especially in those saturated markets, is the impact they have on customer satisfaction. Delays in fault resolution or even initial onboarding of a customer or service negatively impact Net Promoter Score and hinder CSP's abilities to compete in crowded markets. Finally, there's a revenue impact in terms of delay or interruption to a revenue-generating service. If a service or network isn't operational, it can't be charged for, and CSPs are therefore unnecessarily leaving revenue on the table if they allow this to happen. It's important to recognize that telecoms is no longer the fat marketplace of previous decades, and the lean operators of today simply cannot afford to leave even morsels of revenue behind. With all of this in mind, I'm delighted to welcome today's speakers, Szymon Uczciewek, the Head of Field Service Management Consulting at COMARCH, and Adam Otter, the Manager of the Dispatcher Unit at Orange Polska. I should also point out that both Szymon and Adam will be answering questions from the audience after their presentations. So to ask them a question, simply enter your question into the panel on your screen, and I will put it to today's speakers after their presentations. It's great to have both a vendor and a CSP customer speaking today, and I'm looking forward to learning about the challenges CSPs face and the solutions to those challenges in today's webinar. Now, without further ado, I'll hand over to Adam Otter from Orange Polska. Adam, the floor is now yours.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Otter. I work for Orange Poland. It's the leading telecommunication provider on the Polish market. It was a national operator before, so we own the largest technical infrastructure in Poland. And we have our own technicians too. And it is a technical field intervention unit. We have multi-competence team and multi-competence technicians. We operate different processes and on different equipment. So it is maintenance, network and service delivery, network development and change management. So we use IP equipment, fibers, access, transmission and switching, and power and air conditioning too. So full scope of equipment on the active network and fiber optic on the highest layers of the network. Today I would share with you some ideas about lean management in field service management on the active network. It's a little bit different in comparison to the last mile, and I would like to show you some example how it can be seen as a process. A few words about lean management. The most important is value from the customer point of view. It's the potential delivered to the customer, and at the other side we have waste. It is any activity that consumes resources, consumes time, but does not create value for the customer. So it's basic for the lean management. The next basic thing is waste. The 7 types of waste defined previously in Toyota. It's overproduction, it's inventory, waiting, transport, motion and defects, and processing, so overprocessing. Now we can hear about additional waste like unused staff potential and excessive use of energy or resources, so like water, for example. And most visible types of waste in the process is waiting and defects. So it's easier to see these types of waste. Okay. Now I show you some type of value stream map for the process. We use some dedicated version of field service management. It's a process inside this tool. We see here dispatcher and technical teams. That's steps for dispatcher, steps for technical teams. First, it's order registration is the first step. When we have the order in the system, then we can accept this order. Then preparing tasks and scheduling. On the next step, we send this information to the technical teams. They should realize these tasks in the field and close tasks when they are complete. Then we can close the order, and it finished the process inside the field service management tool. The most important thing is here, because inside this step, realizing task in the field, we have some dedicated tasks for the technicians, and for the active network we can define a few tasks in different places, and the biggest part of the lead time is here on this step. So it can be some hours, but sometimes it can be some days, for example. So it's an important difference between the last mile and active network, I think. So just remember that in this step we have inside some tasks, not only one task, but it is a few tasks in different locations. It can be in different locations, it can be sometimes in the same location. Sometimes this task depends on the cells, sometimes not. Can be made parallelly, so for example. Okay. When we talk about lead time, we can define some ways of processing this order, and At the beginning, it's the dispatcher's rule to accept the order, or it can be made in automatic dispatcher mode. But if it's manually, it should be made ASAP and, for example, in FIFO sequence. Then we should keep the flow, and we can, for example, set some KPI, for example, 5 minutes average per order or something else, if it's made manually. If it was before made in automatic dispatcher mode, so we can still keep the sequence in FIFO mode. Then the next step is the preparing tasks and scheduling. We should try to start the tasks ASAP, plan to start this task ASAP, and technical teams, they should be available and they should have some required skills. Okay, inside this step, realizing tasks in the field, when we have a few tasks inside, as I said before, it's important to keep flow again. Every time when we stop work or it's some time between tasks, it's increased lead time for the order. It should be realized as planned, and the feedback about realization that was be done ASAP again. So we can, when all these tasks are completed, we can close tasks. The best is online or ASAP if it's not possible to close it online. Sometimes it needs some additional information and it's not possible to do it in the field directly. And then we can close order and again ASAP and in FIFO order. When we try to think about flow in dispatcher structure or in dispatcher processing, for dispatcher processing, the lean idea is the first time quality, so we should try to process the order alternately. So what I mean, we can take one order and accept and preparing task and scheduling. So when it's sent to the technical teams, we can start making the next step from the other order that are completed in the field. So preparing tasks and then closing another order. One order, accept, preparing task, sent to the technical teams, but on the next step, closing the order, they are completed from the technical teams. Sometimes this loop is a little bit longer when we accept that dispatcher can close some task or register some new orders. This loop, this green loop, can be a little bit longer for dispatcher, but the idea is the same, to keep alternately processing the orders. And for the first time quality, every change is the waste. So when we change something, for example, again, prepare some task scheduling or we change some technician, they should realize the task in the field. It generates some additional loops. So at the end, the lead time is longer. So we should avoid additional loops. We should try to process the order with the first time quality. Okay, what next when we know how we should see the process and we define how it should be made in dispatcher? We can prepare work standard for the dispatchers with precise description of the steps. For example, as I said before, like FIFO order or ASAP or on the flow with KPI, for example, 5-minute average per orange or something else. We can prepare some standards for technical teams for handling orders in the field, for closing this order, giving the feedback as soon as possible. We can prepare the measures that encourage desirable behavior because we know how it should be processed. And then constant monitoring and continuous improvement is the standard lean idea. So we can prepare some dashboard and monitor our results. And at the end, some examples before and after what we can achieve with lean ideas for this type of processes. We can make these processes faster. Average duration, for example, in our examples, that was over 30% better. Tasks unchanged, so this avoiding of the additional loops, that was over 60% better. And punctuality 2 times better as at the beginning. It's some process KPIs, but it's important for the customer and for NPS, for example, as it was said at the beginning. Okay, that was the short information, short example how it can be seen in the process for the active network. How implement some lean ideas to processing orders in field service management system. But the ideas, they are universal, they can be implemented to any other processes. Thank you. That's all from my part.
Thank you very much, Adam. I now take the opportunity to hand over to Szymon Udczewek from COMARCH, who will give his presentation. Szymon, over to you.
Thank you, Adam, for introduction of lean management approach. As you can see, it is quite large piece of knowledge and methodology. And thank you for sharing this information, how it works, and showing some cases and what benefits comes from lean management at Orange. I would like to focus more as a vendor of field service management solution. I would like to focus more on practical aspects of implementation of lean management approach, and also would like to show you a little bit how we measure and what benefits we see from introduction of lean management methodology, combined also with other tools and methodologies we use in field service management projects. So COMARCH Field Service Management is a tool which both helps technicians in the field to perform the work better with mobile application when they can get all information in online mode, and also perform activities on integrated environment, but also the back office or the coordinator's application to optimally plan the work which is performed in the field. COMARCH Field Service Management, it is a tool which is quite old when it comes to our first implementations. We are 15 years, almost 15 years on the market, and mainly we introduce our solution. So our main references are from telco tier 1, tier 2 operators, as for example Orange. COMARCH Field Service Management, to have the ability to introduce methodology and more advanced tool to optimize processes, supports the process of field service delivery from end to end, so from work order creation to the completion and analysis of the situation. And it is possible thanks to the comprehensive set of tools which support all these activities. The main area supported is orders and task management, so workflow area, resource, technical and human resource management, automation in area of dispatching, and also support or management of field service delivery of workforce from time perspective, considering Gantt charts, and location perspective using GIS models. It is also important that we have a reporting tool which helps us to analyze the process and introduce continuous improvement based on these results. All of this also is available on the mobile application, and it is very important also from Lean perspective that we have instant access and possibility to manage on React in real time. So going back to the process and going back to the actors, so we support field staff, coordinators, customer service, and any kind of management who is involved in the process, focusing on customer experience, but today talking about process optimization, so reorganizing process and organize is in the way that we don't have waste according to lead management methodology, and also when it is possible, automate the process, which gives us of course the possibility to avoid waste in area of waiting or in area of defects. So lean management methodology at COMARCH is part of our approach to implementation of field service management solution, which is named the full concept is named workforce digitization. It is a set of methodologies and set of technologies which helps to get more productivity, which help to optimize the processes and help to get more from automation. And the concepts or the methodologies we have, except lean management, it is a zero-touch scenario, so more automation in not only in the main path, but also in exceptions. Standardization of the processes, so using standard processes and standard integrations in the system, but also technology like IoT and artificial intelligence to introduce predictive maintenance scenarios and technologies which helps to keep technicians, keep dispatchers motivated as gamification. Very important is management of the knowledge about the processes, about the activities performed in a field. And for that, we utilize our processes library, which can be shared, which can be utilized across the industry between different operators. So when going more into the lean management implementation from the technical or practical perspective, we see lean management as a tool which helps us not only to automate the process, but get the optimality of the processes also from its the optimality of the process from its organization. So lean management helps us not only to introduce the automation, not only to avoid human involvement, but also when the human involvement is required or automate involvement is required, to organize in the way that we can improve our KPIs. And here I have some small example, very simple, but you can understand how it can work in a field. So the situation when we have the different steps of the field service delivery, from new work order, unassigned, en route, on-site, or closed. So we had the situation that on every each step of the process, the technician or the user was required to introduce the notes and to share some information about the process step change. And in fact, we noticed that after some time, the notes were very standard. So information, what was changed, and nothing more. So we noticed that it doesn't produce any value. So it doesn't produce the added value in the value stream of the process. So the only reasonable way to improve that process is to not make the notes for every status change mandatory. So we do not force our staff to create data which are not used. And this is the concept behind many ways in lean management approach. How we measure results from lean management implementation. So as I said, lean management is part of the broad workforce digitization methodology which we utilize in our projects. And very important is that we measure this methodology, this technology, using some standardized metrics, and only then we can see what is wrong, where are the bottlenecks, and what is important to improve. We set KPIs that we have in our system into several groups. I will spend more time on the metrics which are strictly related to the ways which were introduced by Adam. But here we have perspective of the technician. So we measure how many work orders he is able to close a day, how much time or how much millage he produces every day during his daily routine, how much time is idle, so not utilized correctly, and what is the time, of course, of each step when he perform his field activity. We measure that, and also here you can see what impacts from the system perspective impacts the KPI level, and what can help to increase the KPI or decrease in case we need to lower some KPIs. So this is technician perspective. The second very important is, of course, coordinator perspective or the dispatcher perspective, when we measure the ratio of engineers per dispatcher. Also measure the situation when the dispatcher must communicate the technician in the field, or in other way, the technician must communicate the dispatcher to help him to resolve the issue. And also very important aspect, very important measure is how many cases requires dispatcher to be involved in task completion, how many of them cannot be closed by the tech in the field. And of course, important is that increase of that KPIs can be supported by mobile application and integrated environment, when he has the possibility to make actions like provisioning or measurements on the integrated environment. And other very important aspect from lean management perspective is rescheduling ratio. So seeing in case we can schedule the visit, and this scheduling or assignment of the resources is based on the real situation in the field, we can expect that we don't have to reschedule in the future, and we, from the lean management perspective, avoid defects in that step of the process. But going exactly to the cases which were introduced by Adam from the management perspective, so waiting and defects. So these two aspects of lean management are strictly measured by KPI or assessed by the KPI, which is first time fixed rate or percentage of problems which are resolved on a first field visit. And so we measure that, but also introduce tools which can help increase the quality on each step of the process, thanks to the mobile application, which helps to have all information or perform all actions from the field. Very important is also real-time scheduling or rescheduling, so we can keep the scheduled visit with the customer, and we don't have to reschedule it. So the system can easily add or change the assignment and keep the visit as it was when we contacted customer during the first call. And very important is here the integrated environment. I will introduce in a moment how it looks from the system perspective. The second waste introduced here was waiting. So of course, when it comes to waiting, we measure the main KPI which is related to that. So time for order completion. So from order creation to order when order is completed, and we measure each time for each steps as it was presented on the previous in the previous part of the presentation. This from the system perspective. And from the system perspective, all of lean management introduction aspects are based or utilize the data which is stored in a system. And field service management to have the ability to introduce any methodology, and especially lean management, when we focus on the waste, when we analyze the process, when we analyze each step and how much time we spent on each step, when we analyze the situation when we have defects like not scheduled optimally, or that when the technician has no enough information to perform the task, or he has no skills, etc., to perform that task. So to measure that and to introduce any improvement, we need to have all data which are important from that perspective. And so in the system, we measure and we audit or we log every change, every activity which is performed by the end user. So we do not ask them to log or report how much they spent on each task, but it is made automatically. And it is stored in the system, and after that is also presented in the form of dashboards and reports. Here we have an example of the process, which is one quite standard process of field service delivery, going through assigned and route on-site and close activities. And we can see in the history mode each step with the timestamp and how much time we spent on that step. And based on that, we can optimize the process, and we can introduce any change when it comes to the organization of the process. And when it comes to lean management, very often the change is not introducing some automation or some wizards. It was presented that we can change, for example, the way the dispatcher resolve tasks performed in the field. So he can reorganize his inbox in the way that first in tasks are on the top, so he have to go through that task, and thanks to that we can improve a lot this work order completion time. So lean management is very large piece of methodology, and very important is that not all of this must be implemented in the system, but system must give the ability to make decision or to introduce some business change even, and for that the system must give the proper data and present it in the way that the managers can take the decision, can analyze, and can see where the improvement can be introduced. So how it works or what benefits you can expect from introduction of lean management combined with the right tool, which is able to manage, or which is able to give the right level of automation, the tools which help different actors in the process, and which is able also to store and analyze data which are important to introduce that methodology. In fact, of course, it is from case to case and from maturity of the processes company have. Here we have example of introduction of lean management and where we were able to see the main changes. Here we have the KPIs we measured. So this technician ratio per dispatcher, the daily, the number of tasks closed daily, utilized vehicles, the total number of work orders utilized daily, and first time fixed ratio. And we measured it in some business goals set for the project by the main stakeholders. So like increase productivity, increase customer satisfaction, make the company more focused on knowledge or storing knowledge in the system so we can utilize it in the future processes. And what we can see that of course we can see the large increase of the productivity in area of field staff, but it helps a lot to increase the productivity of the coordinators or back office staff, including or focusing especially on dispatchers. In the productivity can be increased, or increased in this case was the increase was more than 50%. And the very important from the cost perspective KPI, which is first time fixed ratio, thanks to the right methodology and the tools introduced in the field, it is almost 40% of increase. And what is important, this KPI has impact on not only on productivity of the technicians, which is significant, but also on customer satisfaction, because when we close at the first time, we can expect customer more satisfied in case we ask him to wait more and we need to visit the customer once again and then only then close the task. So the lean management targeted or implemented with the right tools which can measure and help to improve the KPIs gives the real value for our customers and help a lot not only to see the results just after the project implementation, but this is a tool to have continuous improvement approach. So you can measure as a company and you can see what are the results, what are the bottlenecks, and introduce the new approaches, even not changing the configuration, but changing the way you organize your work from the dispatcher or technician perspective. So thank you. This is information how we introduce lean management for our for our customers together with the right methodology. And I think we are ready to start the Q&A session.
Yes, thank you, Szymon. That was really interesting. I appreciate that. We've had some questions come in already, but there's still time to add some more. So anyone in the audience, if you've got any particular questions, do feel free to send them in. But we've got some already. First, this is a question for Adam at Orange. Adam, the question is, what is the level of automation in this process? And I guess the question's referring to within your field services practices. So again, the question, what is the level of automation?
Yes, okay. We use some automated steps in over 1% of our orders. Wherever it speeds up the work of the dispatcher. But it's important that orders relate to different work areas. The list of tasks in orders is variable, so depending on that, it's to be done in what location, on what network resources, etc. So in practice, it's no possibility to full automation of order processing, so it's a little bit because the system is not very fresh, but the specific of the active network it's different, as I said at the beginning. So we think that over 50% is very good result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. That certainly sounds strong. Well, I have you, Adam. There's a second question here. It says, wouldn't it be faster to serve all the waiting orders and at the end of the day close all the orders fulfilled in the field?
Okay, we talk about lean management ideas, so it's not a lean management way. Because it extends the life of the order. We try to take the order point of view. We try to increase flow in the order point of view. So the lean approach is about concentrating on the flow through the system from the point of view of a single order, and lean approach shortens the execution time of a given order, which translates into an increase in customer satisfaction. So it's the better way.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems sort of counter to the idea of automation and lean field service management to try and batch process things at the end of the day. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. Runs a bit sort of counter to the potential benefits. Anyway, let's move on. And had a question just come in. I think this one was probably best directed to Szymon. Szymon, the question is, how well understood is the introduction of lean management, and what sort of adoption habits are you seeing by end users and field staff?
Yeah, okay. This is a very good question. So when introducing lean management, but in fact when we introduce our system or new tools into the field, we need to work according to the right approach to the change introduction, because we will always have some resistance from end user perspective introducing any kind of change. And lean management is focused on changing the way they perform their daily activities, so it introduced some quite significant change. So when we introduce the tool and new approach to their daily activities, we ask always to have representatives from the end user perspective, from the dispatcher centers, from technician teams. So we need to, of course, get or take into the consideration their aspects and their involvement, because they know their knowledge is, then they have exact knowledge about what they do in the field. But so this is one aspect. But the second aspect is that when we introduce that, we have some agents of the change. So when we go into the field with that change, they can explain other people what is the reason of the change and how it works. In fact, they can be leaders of the change in the field. And this is not only for lean management. This is the idea which should be utilized for any kind of project when we really give tools or change the way end users work or they perform their daily routine. We need to involve them into the change from the very beginning. We have to listen to them, and we have to have some agents or have people on our side who will be the leaders of the change and will introduce the new approach into the field. The lean management, in fact, is by default should organize the work environment in optimal way, which helps to avoid any mistakes. So it should be easier, but of course it is still the change, and the agent is required.
Thank you, Szymon. Another question that's come in. It's a question about the company size that this is applicable for. The question is, what should be the company size to see a positive return on investment from spending on lean management tools? So I guess the question is there a size of business that makes this work best?
Okay, yeah, this is a very good question, and this question appears very often when we talk about investment in any optimization or automation tools, especially those which are utilized in the field. Because when our customers, they do the investment, they would like to see income which is larger than investment, and this is natural. The automation tools and optimization, of course, can give income when it is multiplied by many users. So when we have more users in the field, more users in the back office, and more work is automated, or more activities are performed in better way, then we see more return from investment. And this is valid for automation and management tools or automated dispatching. When we have 10 techs in the field, probably we can easily manage them optimally, not using advanced tools. But introducing lean management or simple reporting tools is valid and can give very quick value also for small companies. In fact, lean management, it is reorganizing your work in a way it removes all waste which are in a field. And in fact, lean management approach you can find easily, and we also utilize that. So you can find trainings, personal trainings about introduction of lean management into your personal life. So you can see the positive aspects. You're removing waste and focus on what gives you the real value in your life, even from personal perspective, and you can get some improvements in your time management and in your results. So in fact, introducing lean management is not limited by the number of users, and you can get positive income even if you have a smaller operation.
Great, thank you, Szymon. And we've actually just had one question come in just at the last minute that I think we've probably got just enough time to address. I think the question is probably relevant to both Adam and Szymon. the question is, what is a driver to implement this lean management? Does it come from the leadership committee of an operator, or is it because the tools are available? Adam, what do you see as the driver? Is it coming from the leadership committee of an operator pushing down to get you to achieve efficiencies, or is it that the technology is there that enables you to create efficiencies?
Yeah, okay.
Or a combination of both?
In our case, that was a few years ago. That was the methodology from the third-party firm. So we start to learn a little bit about lean management, and that was at the beginning of the implementation, the field service management system in our organization. And then it's a little bit about the management team determination in technical fit intervention in Orange, Poland, I think. So at the beginning it was as you ask, steering committee and so on, and all the project structure. But during time, it's like I don't know. It's the way of life, the way of thinking in your job. So it needs still some supervision from the management. But when you try to work this way, and it brings some results, you don't want to back to the old type, to the old way of working. So at the beginning,
well, you've been talking. Another question coming, and it follows on really well. It says, what do you value most from this? Is it the time saving, the cost saving, the quality improvements, or are there other aspects to consider?
Yeah, the most important is time saving and increase of the quality. But as a result of this is lower cost. So the focus is not on the cost, but on the flow, on the time of the time duration of the orders and the quality. So this is lean management. So.
Sure. No, I understand that, and I guess the cost takes care of itself once you've saved the time and you've provided the quality. So I guess that's an interesting thought. I'd just like to loop back to Szymon now with the first of those two questions, which is about what is driving operators to implement lean management. Szymon, what are you seeing? Does the drive come from leaders' committees, or is the drive more from the fact that the technology and the tools are available to enable lean management?
Oh yeah, so the main driver to introduce lean management is to really benefit from lean management approach. So when you think about lean management, you think about cost saving and productivity increase. So in most cases, the driver coming to utilize the lean management is to introduce methodology which will help to go through the change, which is focused on improvement in the processes. And also the main driver to utilize the methodology is to a little bit work with this resistance which can come from end users. Lean management gives you the right or the way, the guidelines, how perform the change and what you can expect at the end, and what is the value for each, for every actor of that change. So the methodology helps to go through the transformation in the right way and you can use the authority, or you can use the lean management, which was introduced by Toyota and many other companies, and everybody see at the end the benefits. So you don't have to fight or with the resistances showing that you only work with cost cuttings, or you introduce some tools but you have the right methodology which can be utilized to perform that change. And of course, so this is the main driver to utilize the lean management, but the tools are really helpful in that. So when you can measure everything and you don't have to spend on that much time and go through the Excel reports, how much time spent on that and on this, on that, it helps a lot to introduce any kind of methodology. And when it comes to lean management, it is quite popular in manufacturing, but now when the market is going to many different or try to check many different options how to introduce a little bit more efficiency into the process, then you can introduce the process. Then you can see that the lean management can help also in services, and this is like the trend on the market. So everybody who has a little bit understanding of current trends on the market in area of management will understand lean as the right approach and quite safe approach to the transformation project.
Great, thank you, Szymon. I think we're pretty much out of time now, I'm afraid. It's been a really interesting session, so I'd like to thank our speakers today, Szymon Uchchevek, the Head of Field Service Management Consulting at COMARCH, and thanks also to Adam Otter, the Manager of the Dispatcher Unit at Orange Polska. It's been great to get both your perspectives today, and thank you also for the attendees for their attention and also for the questions that they put to the panel. It's been a great session, and I've found it really interesting and enjoyed it a lot. So many thanks for joining us today.